So thank you for coming this afternoon, everyone. And we're grateful to hear from Emmanuelle and Jim and to learn more about Binogi and translanguaging pedagogy in Ontario schools. And Emmanuelle, I'll let you introduce yourself and with Jim, if that's okay.
Thank you, Christine, for the introduction. My name is Emmanuelle Pichon, and I am an assistant professor at the University of Toronto, Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, already for 4 years. Before that, I was an assistant professor in Utrecht in the Netherlands for 10 years. And that's it. Jim?
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Jim Cummins. I'm a retired professor emeritus at OISE, and I've been working with Emmanuelle on this project for several years, and it's an exciting new direction in terms of exploring scaffolding possibilities for English language learners. So I'm excited to be here.
Right, and I would really like to thank those people who are here who participate in our research or will participate very soon. And I wanted to mention Sally and Ritten from Toronto, and maybe more will join. So the reason why we are here is that we are conducting a research project on the impact of translanguaging pedagogy on the academic and emotional development of students in the junior years and beyond, and that is financed by the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada. Okay, so I wanted to start with 3 examples that could actually be examples of our students in the classroom, and I think we could create as many portraits as we have students because their language biographies are sometimes extremely complex. But the first one is Sophia. She's a student who has just arrived in the suburb of Toronto from Syria. She's now in a literacy enrichment academic program at a nearby school. She feels very frustrated that she's not able to understand what is being taught in class, although she was always considered a good student in Syria. She now feels like she does not get a fair chance to show it. Another could be Hamid. Hamid, who was born and raised in Canada. He speaks English at school and with his siblings, and Arabic with his parents, and when they're all together. He's also in immersion, and in fact, he's doing very well. And then another one, I met them all up, but I guess they all trigger some memories from you. Suzanne, she was also born and raised in Canada. She speaks English at school and at home, and her grandparents speaks Mandarin. And she understands what they say, but can't answer in that language. So, you know, those are all students of our classrooms, and for years, this language complexity had no effect on how students were treated in the classroom. The languages were kept separate, and the tests were all in the language of the school, and we barely knew our students' repertoires, except for those students who did not yet understand the language of the school, who were treated as English language learners. That was it. We saw them as English language learners. So scenarios like the one in the Sophia example are in fact the consequence of many factors, such as inaccurate assessment of students' true academic potential that reduce their academic opportunities and lead them to negative academic outcomes. But far too many of these students actually drop out of schools. And there is a very interesting paper of Callahan from 2013 that shows that the number of dropouts among these students is twice as high as that of fluent speaker of the school language. That's a lot, twice as high. And in addition, language learners like Sophia, they are still very underrepresented in scientific tracks of education. So this is a very short introduction, and this is all also linked to the fact that we see a high decline of interest in STEM in the middle grades, and coupled with reduced practice opportunities to practice outside of school hours. And you will see why we say that, because it's important for Binogi. So the question we are asking is, how to address the specific needs of each of our students within one classroom, and how do we go about teaching specific subjects like math or science to ESL students when you are and we are ESL teachers specialized in language teaching, not in math and science, but in language. Okay, here, because most of the research is based on a theory developed by Jim, I will give you the floor, Jim.
Okay, as Emmanuelle was saying, there's an issue in terms of comprehension for students who are new arrivals. And almost by default, the language of instruction is English. And because in many cases we're faced with the mini United Nations in front of us in our ESL classes, as well as in so-called mainstream classes, the teachers feel that there's no way that they can tap into students' home language backgrounds. That's something for the home, and we try to scaffold as well as we can in other ways. But I think what has happened in the last 20 years through research that Emmanuelle has conducted, I've been involved in, and other people around the world, is we've explored ways in which, or teachers have explored ways in which we can bring in students' home languages into the classroom in productive ways. And the rationale for doing that is that there's a lot of research out there showing that there are strong relationships between how well students' home language develops and how well they do in developing academic skills in English. And so the two languages are interdependent, or they're manifestations of a common underlying proficiency, so that even though we can clearly distinguish different languages, for example, Spanish is not the same as English, both of them are very far from Mandarin, but at a deeper level, at the level of conceptual development, there's a lot of interdependence or overlap and dynamic interactions among the languages. So they're positively related to each other. And when we look at the challenge for many students who are newcomers, where it takes, the research suggests, at least 5 years, and sometimes much longer for students to catch up, they may get language support, ESL support for maybe 1 year, 2 years during that period. But for a lot of the time, they're in the mainstream classroom where they're trying to gain access to science knowledge, math knowledge, social studies knowledge, without having necessarily the depth of English language comprehension to really understand what's going on. And so the challenge is, how can we explore broader and multiple pathways to understanding for our students? In what ways can we expand their access to the curriculum? And we can do that obviously by various kinds of scaffolding strategies, but a powerful way in which we can also do that is by tapping in to what they know in their first languages. And this is where Binogi comes in. And I'll turn back to Emmanuelle at this point, and she can elaborate on that.
Thank you. And I also wanted to add two things that we know essentially from cognitive sciences. The fact that we know that the academic level increases with an increased exposure and manipulation of academic content. So that's extremely important. Increased exposure means exposure to academic content beyond the language class, the classroom. And then the second thing we know is that the academic level increases also with maximum variation in the types of content support, which is also called multimodalities. So if we can teach our students in using a written, oral, film, experiments, games, art-based instruction, etc. So all kind of different support to bring academic content. And that's exactly where the translanguaging pedagogy comes in. So the pedagogy of translanguaging, like you may know already, but maybe not all of you, so I'm gonna repeat, is doing exactly that. It is the idea of reinforcing the transfer from one language to another in students to allow them to build on all of their resources. So what we do is that we intentionally encourage students to switch from one language to the other in the classroom, and I insist, in the classroom in order to tap into the students' full linguistic repertoire, or what we also call in our jargon, funds of knowledge. Because of course, there is much more than the language. The language is just a tool to reach out to whatever the student already knows. So how does it translate for teaching? Different things. The first is that we need school material translated in school and home languages. And that's something we didn't have until recently. We need programs and activities accessible beyond the classroom. And we also need to vary the teaching materials with, what we called multimodalities previously. And this is where Binogi comes in. So what is Binogi? Binogi is a web-based program that is composed of a series of lessons based on the local curriculum. And I like to understand it as a co-teaching method. So it's not going to teach instead of you, but it's a resource that will help you to teach whatever content you want to convey to your students. So like I was saying, we need school materials translated in school and home languages. Well, that's exactly what happens in Binogi. It's translated at the moment in Arabic, Tigrinya, Somali, Dari, Swedish, Finnish, Thai, French, Spanish, and German. And they keep extending the number of languages they have on the platform. It's also, being a web-based platform, it's also accessible at home. And this is a poster we created with my students to explain to parents how they can access Binogi at home in order to support their children or family members in accessing content knowledge. And it is varied. And we are going to see that you have a video, you have a script, you can listen to it, you can read it, you can do quizzes. So it's also a game-like pedagogy. So let's go to Binogi. Do you still see my screen, the Binogi screen? Amazing. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm gonna, I didn't share the sound. So I need to share the sound. So I will stop sharing and reshare. Apologies for my lack of professionalism. I'm not learning. And show you a random video on Binogi. So if you don't have an account already, you have a certain number of videos that are free to access. Okay, so what happens when you open it? I chose one randomly.
Tara and Nimi are camping near a river. Suddenly, they hear the sound of a tree falling and a splash when the branches hit.
¿Qué ha sido eso? ¿Deberíamos ir a mirar? Mira, Tara, un castor está construyendo un dique. ¡Qué impaciente estoy por contarle a todo el mundo que hemos visto un castor! En Canadá, que es donde viven Tara y Niimi, los castores son un símbolo nacional. Un animal que suele representar de alguna manera a Canadá.
But of course, beavers are not the only animals in Canada.
So what did you notice? What you noticed probably is, first, I changed the languages. So every video has a certain number of languages available that you can play with. You can use the subtitles, you can use the oral version in the different languages. It's really per chance that I chose one that was in Spanish. I didn't know. Anyways, that's interesting because also, for instance, Spanish is a language that is in demand. We know that because we get the request very often. What you also saw is that I decreased the speed of the speech. So what is amazing with Binogi is that you can repeat the video as much as you want, but you can also decrease or even accelerate the speed. So I don't know if you watched your children watching the videos, but mine are accelerating the speed. Usually it's adults who are slowing down the speed. But for learners of a certain language, it can help a lot. And after that, underneath, there is a script. There is the whole script of the video is underneath, which means that in one blink of an eye, is that how you say in English? You can see what it is about, what the story is about, just identify the concept you want to work with that are also listed here. the important science concept you want your students to acquire, and then do the quizzes. So it's important to know that the quizzes are also available in the languages you just saw on the video. So again, it depends on the video you choose, but here, for instance, in Arabic. And if students do the video in Arabic, they can answer and you will see the answer in English. So you will see in which language they did the work. Okay, so I will go back to, if you have more questions, we'll come back to it later on. Okay, so that's for Binogi. And then there is our research project. And like I was saying, what are we trying to do with our research project? And thank you, Antoinette, for being here. You weren't there at the beginning, so I couldn't introduce you. But we are a certain number of researchers working on it at OISE, among whom Antoinette. And what our goal is really to support you, teachers, in implementing a translanguaging pedagogy to support science, technology, engineering, and mathematics learning. So how do we do that? Well, simply enough, we base all of the material we develop on the Binogi video and on the curriculum. That's extremely important for us. So Binogi is also based on the curriculum. We identify the most important concepts you want the students to work on, and then we translate in a number of languages that are available to us and add the pictures from the video, Binogi videos. So I will bring you to our website that is freely available. So it looks like this. And what we are also trying to do is help Binogi reach out and teachers to reach out to the families, because you remember, we want our academic content to reach out beyond the classroom walls. So we created posters, for instance, to explain to the parents how to do that by accessing their children's accounts on Binogi, and we developed them in different languages. For instance, Urdu, which is, by the way, not a language that is yet on Binogi, but will be very soon, I suspect, and where that you can send with students home, and where parents will know how to support their children in learning math and sciences. So all of these languages and posters are available here. There are also posters to help you signing up your students on Binogi. But there are also lots of resources that we created to help each teacher who is not a math or science teacher, for instance, to work with their students on Binogi. So for instance, here you see a number of topics that we have worked on, and I can show you, for instance, the water system. So we indicate the curriculum expectation, the learning objectives, Binogi related resources, of course, additional resources. So we help you to find out additional resources to work on with your students. And then these posters I was describing to you that you can download, cut, paste, make memory games or whatever. And that are also developed, for instance, in Mandarin. Oh, this one is not appearing, I'm sorry. And all kinds of activities that you can do with the Binogi material, consolidation, reflection, and importantly, posters where students can add their own language. So you see the same concept, but students can, and this way reinforce the learning of this academic language by making links to their own languages. We called it the language-friendly pedagogy. Okay, let's go back to, again, this website is freely available, so don't hesitate to sign up. Jim, Antoinette, if you want to add anything, please jump in.
Okay.
Otherwise I'm gonna be fast. So what do students think of it? To give you some room for questions. Well, this one is amazing. When we are students, they are so resourceful. I love to ask them. Students, they themselves refer to Binogi as a game, which means that Binogi is stimulating intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, which is great. And all of a sudden, math and science become cool subjects. All of a sudden, it becomes fun to learn. And the student who says, I love it. He says, it makes me study more. And you remember that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted resources to be available beyond the classroom. What they really like about Binogi is that they can change the language. You see that they can also, but not only, they can also vary the media. So for instance, this one, she says, or he says, we can read instead of watch the video. This is surprising, isn't it? So some students prefer to read than watching the video, for instance. And this one says, I like Binogi because I can change the languages, and that's why I understand more. And I just wanted to remind you that the best way to learn a language is to understand. It first starts with understanding. If you don't understand, you can't learn. And in fact, it's very risky to ask your students to talk in a language that they don't understand yet, because they are going to be stressed and etc. So, and to understand, you have to find correspondences. So making links between the different words in the different languages, you know, and that will help them to remember and understand the concept you are trying to convey. And this is exactly what is happening here. That is what the students are saying here. And that's exactly what the students is also saying. He says that it is a great thing that can teach kids who don't speak a lot of English. I thought it was interesting because we all want our classroom to be inclusive. We want more equity in the classroom, and we still find reason not to include students' languages. We have some resistance within us. And then, but students, they do understand it. That's what equity is all about. It's about providing strategies to access meaning tailored to the needs of the students. Jim, do you want to go about what the teachers say about it?
Well, you can see the two quotes there. They one quote is, they use the sound in Tigrinya. They progressed to doing it more in English. And I found, in English I found, and now they use spoken English with subtitles. And I do see a lot of kids flipping back and forth, which is what I really liked. I think what this is pointing towards is the autonomy that Binogi gives students, where they can use their own strategies. They can go back and forth according to how they're understanding or not. And so that, I think what they've observed in Sweden with the work they've done there over a number of years with Binogi is that students will initially stay in the home language when they're at a very early stage of acquiring the school language, but then quickly try to get it in the school language, but go back to the home language again. And so they go back and forth to increase their understanding, which is exactly what we want. And so when students, when the classroom is confined to just the school language, then students are deprived of everything that they know and all of their cognitive power in their home language. And so learning is likely to be more restricted. And so I think these teacher comments are pointing to the affordances that Binogi provides students and the increased access to pathways to understanding that it can provide.
Thank you. So I really want to thank you all. I would like to thank my team, the people working on the research at OISE, Antoinette, for the amazing work she's doing with teachers at OISE, and also the Binogi team, Suzanne, who is here today. So if you have any question, or if you want to join the research or simply join Binogi, let us know and we'll be happy to introduce you to it. I will stop sharing. And then I think we have a couple of minutes left for questions, right?
I guess I'd just like to jump in and say hi to everyone. And I know that, you know, as a teacher myself, I always love to hear the voices of teachers as well as students. And I just wanted to remind the group that there was a session in the fall where there was a panel of teachers that came to Ergo and presented their experiences going back as far as about 10 years using this wonderful platform. So if you haven't seen it, you can find it on the Binogi website, as well as, I believe, the Ergo website. And we do have a teacher who's working with us here today. So I don't know if Sally would like to jump in and say a few words about your experience.
Sure. I mean, it is fairly new. I'm the teacher librarian at the school, and I'm new in the role of department head for ESL. So I absolutely want to support this initiative. And so our math teachers, our science teachers are gradually getting on board. They're so appreciative of Emmanuelle's team with the resources that are being developed. Digital literacy is a constant challenge for our students. And so it's another way to increase that knowledge as well. I did hop onto some Google Classrooms during these last 2 weeks, and I could see the science teacher using Binogi with his students. And we registered a couple new students from Eritrea, and I've been in the building to give out devices this week. And they were thrilled when they switched over the language from English to Tigrinya. So yeah, these are just little anecdotes, and I look forward to seeing how it develops at our school.
Thank you. I'd like to jump in and answer the question that was asked in the box about Binogi and the curriculum. Yes, so there is a very helpful website that lists Binogi, the books and the curriculum. So it's called books.binogi.ca. And once you are there, so for instance, I chose the Ontario Elementary Curriculum Mathematics Grade 7, then you can see all of the videos they have that are related to the particular topics of the curriculum. So for instance, if you choose Introduction to Negative Numbers, you'll come, oh, it's probably because I am not logged in. Yes. So maybe now it will work. Oh, normally it works. Anyways, that normally it works. So they may be working on the website right now. And so it's the link between the curriculum and the Binogi videos. Thank you for this question. There were two more questions. I'm going to stop sharing. Oh, many more. Is there any intention to vary the level of English on the Binogi platform? I believe there is. I believe they are working on it. In fact, what you saw, I think that your question, Sally, is related to your beginner students who would like to have a language that is more accessible to their level. What I like, personally, what I like in Binogi is that they don't do that. That it is the language as it should be, and that it's left to the teachers to work on it.
Next week when we're live,
Oops. Jim, you want to jump in?
No, Binogi is a resource. It's not the whole story. You can't just sit students down in front of it and expect them to get all of the information without the support of the teacher. So the teacher is mediating that understanding process, and the teacher is in a position to explain the text in Binogi, to pre-teach some of the concepts and more difficult language that might be in the video. So it's a co-teaching resource, as Emmanuelle said earlier on.
Right. And regarding the questions around extra languages, no, they are not all languages on Binogi, although they are adding a lot of languages and very fast. But what we want to say is that it is an invitation to add these languages yourself, to work with the students, with their funds of knowledge, to add these languages with the posters, for instance, we created. Once you open your classroom to more languages, you open your classroom to all languages. So I wondered if Dritten wanted to jump in, because Dritten, you came to us and you had an amazing story about why you wanted Binogi in your school.
Sure, Emmanuelle, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So my name is Dritten Biligbashi, and I'm the vice principal at Greenwood Secondary, and Sally is one of the teachers who just spoke from Greenwood. Personally, I was a 14-year-old who fled a communist country in the 90s and was myself. So I've experienced myself learning a second language. So when I heard the pitch from Emmanuelle and her team, putting all these resources to help students just like myself, like I was, we had to jump on this opportunity. And I must say, we are at the beginning stages. We have done a lot of work, but what has stood out for me is the teamwork and the passion that Emmanuelle's team brings into this project. And I have experienced myself that multiple times that we have asked them to come in the building. This was pre the new variant. They have obliged, they have been there and supported the teachers, in particular our science teacher who has taken this head on with her classes, and also our math teacher, our math department is taking this on in particular to start in semester 2. We're looking forward to this collaboration. And as Emmanuelle said, a lot of our students, even in conversations one-to-one, appreciate the fact that I guess they can learn and continue to learn in their language, but at the same time have this opportunity to learn the new language of English as well. And something else that I wanted to add was the fact that I think Emmanuelle mentioned, but the fact that the parents as well can be involved and support their children at home and bring them into the whole, I guess, learning process for their children is also crucial. Because from the chair where I sit, I get a lot of parents sometimes, obviously new to the country, that are unsure of our system, and they're asking as to how their why their children are not getting any homework. So the idea here is for us to actually use Binogi, as Jim mentioned, as another, I guess, resource to bring it into the homes of our students and have the whole family together actually investigate and learn further on the topic of interest. So those are the two main points that I thought I'd mention. And again, I want to stress and mention to everyone how dedicated and supportive Emmanuelle and the whole team has been in this process and continues to be. So we're looking forward, because this is just the beginning for us, but we're looking forward to continuing this year and the years to come. So I thank you on behalf of the teachers. I know Sally mentioned that as well from her point of view. So thank you, Emmanuelle.
Thank you, Drayton. There's a question from Colleen about whether or not the teachers at your school are using this platform with all the students in the class. And I just wanted to answer Colleen that Greenwood is a special school in that all of the students are newcomers, and some of them have also interruptions to their school-based learning before arriving at Greenwood. So the classes at Greenwood are fully comprised of English learners or multilingual students. And the other thing that I think we're hoping will emerge at Greenwood is an even stronger collaboration among the teachers. It's already happening there a lot, but between the English language teachers and the subject area teachers sharing in this resource to support learning across different subjects.
Yes, thank you very much for mentioning that. And there is a question about whether Binogi is a resource for the entire class or only for ELL instruction. No, Binogi is not per se a resource for ELLs. Binogi is a resource for everybody. It's a resource for monolingual children, but that gives with equitable strategies for those students who need more. And we need to say that from research, we know that reinforcing the language, that the students be monolingual or multilingual, is always in their interests. So they will learn better and faster from it. So it's very important to say that, I guess. Suzanne, you are raising your hands. Please jump in.
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you, Emmanuelle and Jim, and for inviting me to be part of this meeting today. I just want to say on behalf of Binogi, this is very important for us and reinforces continuously what we're trying to achieve with Binogi, which is increasing the possibility for equal academic success, really. So I want to thank you for this, and it's amazing for us to hear this from teachers and everyone we're working with. And as mentioned here, we work in partnerships with school boards in Canada, and we have our first school board on board, which is the Waterloo Catholic District School Board that we had a meeting with on earlier today, and we are very impressed with over 500 users and since September. And all these questions that you are asking here are very important for us to hear and understand, because these are the needs that you have. And thanks to more participation from more school boards, we hopefully be able to achieve most of these needs, including more languages, including developing the platform further based on all the needs that are coming up through both research and the contact that we have with our users. So please reach out if you want to hear more about it.
So thank you very much. Also, thank you, Carrie, for sharing so much of your experience with Binogi. It's amazing to read and to hear. And Atala, I hear your question, and I think for me, it's a bit painful because I would like to answer yes. And I think it's really Binogi on their side. And we are all thinking of how could we do that? So if you have ideas, please come in and let's discuss it together. I think we are at the end of the time that we were given. Christine.
Thank you, Emmanuelle, and Jim, and Suzanne, and Carrie, and Antoinette, and everyone that shared their experiences, and Drayton. Also, it's very valuable learning and insight to this amazing research, and very powerful for students and families, and also educators who are supporting these needs. And we really, really appreciate all of your time and insight to this. And I think we're hoping to plan one more session similar to this, in where teachers who are using it, I think hopefully from Waterloo, will have a chance to share their hands-on experience and learning from using this platform. So we're looking forward to that possibility in the near future. And thank you. Wonderful questions also from participants.
Thank you. And we just put our email addresses. So if there are questions related to the research, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to answer these questions and discuss it with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for coming in this busy week and sharing time with us after school. And we look forward to future learning and after school sessions with Ergo. Thanks.
Bye everybody. Thank you. Au revoir.
Au revoir. Thank you.